All right, guys, we're back at the shop here, and I got an exciting one for you, and really for me today, because I'm finally doing an upgrade on my 2001 Beaver Patriot Thunder that I've wanted to do since I put these four 6-volt AGM used batteries in over 2 years ago. That was just a temporary repair until I got real batteries in there. But over the weekend, I did take my RV out with my son, and we got to finally enjoy boondocking of Quartzite, Arizona, and we ran into a little bit of a problem. So I've only been camped here at Quartzite for overnight, not even a full day yet. And look at my inverter. It says I'm just under 11 volts, and I ran the generator for about 7 or 8 hours last night before I went to bed. So these batteries are trashed. Oh, well, look at that. Low battery voltage. And I lost all my 120 volt lights in here. Right, Thomas?
Magic.
Magic. So to say that I need new batteries would be something of a giant understatement. Not just any batteries, right? And stop dealing with a workaround for all these years. So now here we are, a few days later. The batteries have been charged up the entire time, and I'm already down to 12.4. If I turn the inverter on, we drop down to below 12 volts just that fast with just a few lights and my refrigerator. Now I need my RV this weekend, so I had to rush and put together a pretty quick replacement battery, and I'm pretty excited with what I think I found on Amazon. So rather than having four 6-volt AGM batteries in this big tray right there with all those battery cables, I decided to go with one very large lithium iron phosphate battery from what I would call Vader. Before we get too involved and too deep in the weeds in comparing AGM lead acid batteries to lithium iron phosphate batteries and going through a lot of numbers and a lot of stuff that kind of bores me, my first biggest concern, because I don't want to relocate any of these battery cables and I'm kind of limited to this tray that the RV came with, is if this battery is going to fit where those four batteries go. Because all I had to really go off of were the dimensions that were on Amazon. And even though I know there's more than enough room side to side, let's see, that's about 15 inches there, about 11 inches here. The hook on the back there, it looked to be about 20.5 inches, and even this one's a little bit shorter at, we'll call it about 19 inches. My biggest concern is that the tray itself is framed inside for these batteries to fit. So there's a good chance I might have to do a little bit of modification to my battery drawer here. But first, like any other battery exchange I'll ever do on an RV, I'll take a picture of the cables, make sure everything goes back together correctly. And then I'll go ahead and get you guys set up as I remove these batteries, and then we'll discuss a little bit why I went from four 6-volt AGM house batteries to one very large lithium iron phosphate 460 amp hour single battery from a Vader right there. I think it's Vader. I'm calling it Vader. All right, so first things first, let's kill the battery power. Now, one of the best features about AGMs is that they are maintenance free. They are just standard lead acid batteries. They just have a fiberglass wick basically in between the plates that makes sure the electrolyte stays in really good contact with the lead plates themselves. When I got these batteries, they were already about 3 years old when I got them. There's not too much you can do to maintain them because they're sealed batteries. So I've just been running out the clock, watching as they lose their capacity over time. On a 12-volt battery system like this with a grounded chassis, first thing we'll do is take the grounds off. You can see all these battery cables that are on here. I'm going to try to get rid of a lot of them. So on a 6-volt battery, you have negative and positive. To make a 12-volt out of it, you have to do a a series, so you would go from positive back to the next negative on the next battery. With this single battery, we will get rid of so much of the cables, and of course this becomes one 12-volt battery, this becomes one 12-volt battery. We still have to put those in parallel, so that's where you went negative to negative. So there's a lot of battery cables that I'm going to be able to get rid of using just a one Vader battery. Alright, and this is just the main ground that goes to the chassis. So I now have all the battery cables disconnected. Now I can remove these batteries. Now these batteries are lead acid batteries, so these are about 60 pounds a piece. Alright, so that's one of the advantages of the lithium iron phosphate battery. So at 60 pounds per battery, that's 240 pounds right there. Whereas this, a one battery, it's not light. It's 105 pounds. It does have its own handles on it. But, I mean, maybe it's a two-person lift, but, I mean, I can still hold it with one hand. First impressions is that this is a pretty substantial battery box. Instead of being a sealed plastic box, it has a metal casing around it, and those handles are very securely mounted. And the first question is it steel or is it aluminum? It is steel. So it does add a little bit of weight with the steel casing on it, but it does make it a lot more durable too. I'm sure the next question is, what's this right there? That's just a battery temperature and a moisture meter right there, so you can know if it's getting too wet inside. So this is not completely weatherproof because it is vented on the side right there. I know the next question is, you guys saw how dusty it is in there. Will that be an issue? I don't know. Now I know the next obvious question is, well, that's 4 batteries and that's one battery. This one's rated at 460 amp hours, and these over here are rated at 224 amp hours. So when you do series parallel with the 6-volt batteries, all we're really going to do is double the amps once and then double the voltage once. So we have 12 volts at 448 amp hours. With the basic specifications right there, 4 of these batteries is still less capacity than one of these lithium iron phosphate batteries from Vader. However, without getting too far into the weeds, because I don't really like numbers at all, is what's called depth of discharge. So a lead acid battery, you're only supposed to take it to 50% of its rated capacity. So really, we only have one 12-volt battery with a capacity of 224 amp hours. If we go past 50% of the depth of discharge on that, we can damage those batteries, which I did probably do. Over here with lithium iron phosphate or lithium batteries, that 460 amp hour rating is a true rating, well, at least as true as it can be. The depth of discharge on a lithium battery is you can take it almost all the way down to 0. So you almost get all that 460 amp hours of capacity, and its internal BMS system right there will keep you from discharging it too much. Don't get into chemistry too much at all when it comes to batteries, and it looks like they do have prismatic lithium iron phosphate cells in them, so they are less prone, and in fact I don't even think they can catch on fire, which is another benefit to the lithium iron phosphate. But if we're comparing apples to apples, we had 224 useful amp hours of capacity with those 4 batteries right there, and we have 460 amp hours of capacity with the single Vader LM12460 lithium iron phosphate battery there. Now, of course, my next step is, remember, I don't know if it's going to fit in that tray right there. Now, this is a steel battery tray, and you can see that's got this divider right in the middle right there. Let's do a very important test fit to see what we're working with here. Yeah, so even though lithium batteries you can store or mount any way you want to, I think I want it to be a little bit more secure than that. So I think what I'm going to do first is just get my grinder out, put a fresh blade on it, and I'm going to modify this tray right here by cutting off both these flanges and just leave the flat area down below. Seems the easiest way. All right, here's the plan. Obviously, I will clean up my grinding right there. Right back there is about 18 3/4 to this point right here. What I'm going to do is just bend those around to create a stop to keep the battery from shifting around too. And then we'll be ready to install it. All right, now just spread this open a little bit right here. Let's do a high-tech bend right here. And right there. I'm going to try to neutralize the battery acid here. Alright, I'll let that set up for a little bit and neutralize it all. Alright, get that all cleaned up. And this is just going to be a very quick job. Let me go ahead do that. I got some rubberized undercoating. I mean, is it the best choice? I don't know. It'll be good enough for what I need it for. Right? Nice. Okay, so that's dry enough now. I can go ahead and slide this in place. Now, even though it has an on-off switch for the battery, there's a disconnect for the terminals right here. I don't really like the idea because my cables aren't long enough. I think I'm going to flip the battery backwards. That way the drawer will come out a lot further. But I also want to, how do I put this? Even with the discount code, this is like a $1,400 battery. And this compartment door doesn't lock. So I do want to secure this for both safety and financial security. So I got some aluminum strap and some carriage bolts and or all thread, depending on what I'm going to use. Now, because it's so much easier to work with, I just have some aluminum strap right there, some flat aluminum. I want to keep it probably right on top of the battery right there on both sides. And this one's 2 feet long, so I think this battery is about 10 3/4 inches wide. I can probably just cut this in half, and then I can bend the sides just in the vise and make a bracket that's going to keep it from moving side to side and keep it clamped down. So I know we said we'd, let's see, so half of 2 feet is going to be 1 foot right in the middle. And I know I said it's like 10 3/4 wide, but my tolerances are not very good. So we're going to make it 11 inches for the bend. So I'll just go 5.5, measure at 5.5 inches there and 11 inches there. And then hopefully we bend those straight down. That'll be the width of the battery. It's more effort than I normally do right here. What I have to do is bend that over. Bend that over. Alright, just slide it in just like that. Now just put it in place. And then figure out how much I can bend them back this way so it lands on the side rails right there where I'm going to put these 10-inch long carriage bolts that are probably too long, but I didn't know how long I needed them to be. Alright, it just looks like if I bend it about 2 inches, everything that's left over will be perfect. All I have to do is just measure back 2 inches on each side. Alright, just like that. We got 2. All I'm gonna have to do is decide, drill a hole there, the corresponding hole down below, and do the same thing on this one, and then we'll be able to bolt this thing down. Also, I don't know if you've noticed this, I have kept the battery in the off position, even though they have these really cool commercial grade terminal covers on it, so I can't even short the battery together accidentally. Even if I did that, I still do have the battery turned off, so those terminals right now are dead. So just to verify that I'm not talking nonsense, I guess it's reading 2.52 volts. I'm guessing that's like, all right, blue light's on. Now we're up to 13.33. So it's just like a sense voltage. I bet it wouldn't power up a test light. Maybe an LED, but definitely not an incandescent bulb. Let's see if I can't loop it on there. So I'm gonna guess that'll power up. Now I'll turn the battery off. Blue light off. Yeah, it won't power up that LED, or it won't power up that incandescent on a test light. So that's just like a sense voltage. Now I just have to drill 4 holes into the strap. All right, 3 more to go. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Should be perfect. So I think before we actually get this installed and in place, because it'll be dark in the battery compartment there, we might as well go ahead and take a look at these terminals right here. I don't tear down batteries like Will Prowse or Lithium Solar or maybe even Minuteman Prep on YouTube. I will say, because this is a steel case, it's all just screwed together, you could probably take this apart pretty easily. I don't know what the cables look like underneath here. I don't do capacitance tests or duty ratings on the batteries whatsoever, because that's just not who I am. Those are the numbers that I don't care too much about. But I have watched Will Prowse, I have watched Minuteman Prep, and I have, of course, watched Lithium Solar. And by all accounts, the cells that Vader are using are good cells. So I do feel confident that the capacity is the true capacity that it's rated for. But it's also nice because this terminal block right here means with all those notches around it, you can reposition this any which way you need to reposition it. I guess you can't go that way with it, but I do like this. That's my disclaimer that I haven't taken the battery apart to see what the terminal connections look like or the wiring that was used to connect the individual cells together to those terminal blocks on top of the battery. So I don't really know exactly how durable they are. That might be the weak point in the system, but I'm not going to take a battery apart for that. Time will tell how durable this battery is to the elements, but Vader did say they built it specifically for RV use. Alright, just be using some 3/8 fender washers and 3/8 nylocks on this. I know some people might say I should be using some stainless steel hardware, and I don't know. We already have steel down here on the box that's rusted. We're using aluminum on the top. It's a steel box here. I think this will be more than enough. With that, the battery is finally installed. Now we can finally wire it up. And I think what I'm going to like best about this is just having the one battery. And look at all these cables I don't have to have anymore. That's a lot of money just in cables. And I can just eliminate them all. Now this is a 14mm nut. So I'll just get my positive connected. This is the inverter. You can see the inverter fuse right there. This is going to be the house battery feed. It goes up to the distribution right above there. And then the last one is the solar. So I do have solar on the roof. So I should just be able to feed this one positive cable right there on the terminal. This other one from the inverter. I'll get some slack in it, come from the side, hopefully. Just like that. And then the solar goes on top. All my bluster about how awesome these commercial looking terminal covers are. We'll have to put a notch on the side of this one for this battery cable. But yeah, I don't know if I could get a third battery cable on there. Well, naturally, I have to move everything around. The solar wire was in the way too, so I had to notch both sides of it. But this should finally do it. Now, one of the nice things you might be asking is why aren't we putting terminal spray on it? Well, these are lithium batteries. They don't vent hydrogen gas, and they don't have an acid base or electrolyte to it that can cause issues with the terminals. And then secondly, because this has that power on-off switch on the batteries themselves, I know a lot of people get concerned about hooking up the inverter, that it does spark as the big capacitors have to charge. Because the battery's not actually turned on, you can actually hook up the inverter with the batteries turned off, then turn the battery on. You don't have to worry about that initial spark discharge when the inverter gets hooked up. So here's the inverter ground. No sparks whatsoever. Very nice. All right, well, it does seem like 4 cables on that terminal is the limit of it. I had to do a lot more modification on that cover. Alright, I kind of have this mocked up. The chassis batteries are still disconnected, so if I did something wrong, at least I won't hopefully blow out the transmission or engine module. So it's time to turn the batteries on. Turn it on. Okay. Turn the coach power on. It's not too bad. Says we have 13.2. Turn the inverter on. Alright. So the refrigerator is running. And all my 110 lights are running too. Even my microwave's turned on. This thing's very inefficient, by the way. It pulls 6.5 amps. All right, next thing we need to do is, I guess, go to the Vader app. We need to download the app. I think there's a Apple or Android app. All right, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Well, I'll try it. I wouldn't even try to pronounce it, but it has a little elephant as an icon. Go ahead and install that. We'll go ahead and open it. I'm going to jump login maybe. Guess I get to allow that. We're going to connect to the battery. Okay, so look at that. Currently I'm using 33, almost about 33 amps coming out of the battery. Do like that it did not have to register and log in order to access the battery through the app. Let's go ahead and turn off some of the loads and see if that affects the life or state of charge on it. I don't really need the refrigerator running right now. We'll turn that off. Okay, so with the refrigerator off, we just saved or increased our use about 6 hours at 74% charge. I can probably start turning off ceiling lights. Look at that. Now we're down to 25 hours. So this battery does appear to be pretty much plug and play. Very simple to install if you have a place to install it easily. And you didn't have to modify a battery drawer so much. All right. So that's hooked back up again. And even latches. Now a lot of people might see this battery installation and say, hey, this is outside, this is going to be exposed to the weather, and lithium batteries do not like to get cold. Does this have any sort of thermal protection on it, like heaters to keep the cells from getting damaged? No, this does not have heaters built into the cells. It does have a low temperature cutoff that would actually kill the battery from operating if it does get too cold. Now, while I don't know how vital it is to have a serviceable battery box around lithium batteries, it is a nice option to have. You'll notice this does not take nearly as much room as those 4 golf cart batteries or 6-volt batteries did. Even though these 4 AGM deep cycle 6-volt batteries were pretty good quality, yes, I do have some concerns that the steel case around this will effectively transfer heat and cold even more effectively to the lithium cells inside there. I'm hoping they have some sort of a thermal break inside. I don't know because I didn't open the battery. While the battery was about $1,400 shipped to me, I do get to recoup a little bit of money because I get the cores back on this now. That's at least $40, right? Did I forget to mention that with that app that controls the battery and shows you the amperage going in or out of it, you no longer need a shunt. You no longer need an external shunt to hook up in order to figure out the state of charge on the battery. So it's already built into that battery. So it's one less thing to hook up to the battery, and it's already there built into the app. It does come with a 5-year warranty for the batteries. I don't know if you need to save the box or not to use it again. And it does say it can handle temperatures from -20 to 60 degrees Celsius with ideal temperature between 10 and 35. The other thing to know is that you can only hook 4 of these up together. You can't go up to 5. And I think the last thing to be aware of is on your inverter, its maximum load is going to be 3,200 watts. So you wouldn't want to put a 4,000 watt inverter on there. It would probably just get choked or limited by the max current anyways. It does seem to be a fairly durable product. Time will tell on the longevity, but I'll keep you guys along on the process, and hopefully I'll be the good guinea pig on it. Now, even though I used some 3/8 carriage bolts with some nylocks to frustrate would-be thieves, it may not be a bad idea to get like a Apple tag or GPS locator put on the bottom of your battery, so if somebody does decide to take it away, you can track it down. Because that's like having a bar of gold just sitting there in the basement here. And like I said, my compartment doesn't lock. I have to come up with a workaround for that. And even though I made a great big huge mess doing this installation, it should be pretty simple for most people, unless they want to relocate battery cables and batteries into the basement area right there and add even more batteries. I haven't shown you the engine running, charging those batteries, the generator running to charge the batteries through the inverter, and I still have the breaker to my solar array turned off. So I think right here is where I'm going to end this video. I will put a link to this battery from Vader from Amazon in the description to this video. It is a 460 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. I would say it's very close to a Group 8D size battery. But I don't want you guys to feel abandoned, because I'm sure that you guys have a lot of questions still, because I need to make a part 2 video to this, because there are 4 vital things to understand if you switch your motorhome house batteries from wet cell batteries to lithium batteries. I didn't plan on doing this so soon, but my batteries were trash at this point. All right, guys, stay tuned for the second video in this series. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye. And then for all of you wondering, this did make the ride to Quartzite just fine. And I think it still looks pretty good. Definitely looks good on a cloudy day. I don't know, looks good on a sunny day too.